Well, hey there, Heike Yates here, and welcome to another episode of the Pursue Your Spark podcast. Today is all about habits and how to change your mindset to reach the habits that you want to change. Now, it is really hard to change a habit. It sounds so good when we start out saying, I want to, please fill in the blank, for instance, eat better, eat more vegetables, exercise more, watch less TV. You fill in the blank of the habit that you have wanted to change, only to find out it's not that easy. You have good intentions and then life gets in the way. Yeah, life, like the kids need to be picked up from school, or you have to stay later at work, or again, fill in the blank. There is always a reason why we get deterred from the habit that we want to achieve. And that's why I have our power team, Molly Watts and Angela McDade, here to help us out with our habit mindset. They're sharing with us 5 daily tips for a happier and longer life. We all want to live happier and for sure longer. So, before we dive into today's episode, make sure you subscribed to the Pursue Your Spark podcast on Apple Podcast. And while you're there, leave a review. I would love it, and that helps our show to grow. So, let's dive in to building the habits of everyday happiness with Molly Watts and Angela McDade. Hi there, you're listening to the Pursue Your Spark podcast. I'm your host and midlife warrior, Heike Yates. And on this show, we're talking about fitness, nutrition, and mindset strategies for women in midlife. Plus, our fierce guests on the show share their stories to help you reclaim your power to spark an authentic life. Today I'm talking to Molly Watts and Angela McDade, and they are the co-creators of Five for Life, the Five for Life Planner, the Habit Mindset, and co-hosts of the Live Happier Longer podcast. Molly and Angela believe that the quality of your habits define the quality of your life. They are dedicated to helping people build habits that are proven to increase longevity and improve overall happiness. So happy to have you ladies on the show today. Welcome.
Oh, thanks,
Thanks so
Heike.
much.
So great to connect with you and talk with you again.
I know after you have me on your podcast, I was like, it's about time that you get to meet my listeners.
Yeah. Well, one of your quotes is still one of our favorites, which is get off your buttski.
And I keep probably using that term forever. Get off your butt ski. But
Yep.
our listeners don't know how we met. And as far as I remember, we met through the Instagram over Facebook, 50 over Facebook
Yep.
group.
Yep. That's exactly right. Yep. I'm
Yeah.
an admin there, and I saw, your information and your stuff, and you had a podcast, and we were just starting, and you were definitely someone who embodies the habits of a happier, longer life that we talk about all the time. And so you were a natural fit for being one of our very first guests.
Well, thank you for having me. And I'm extending the same love back to you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, since my listeners don't know who these happy two women are, tell us who you are, what you do, what you like, what's your family about, and all the good stuff.
Well, let's see. I'm Molly Watts, and
I'm Angela McDade.
we are both, well, I think that something that people love to hear about the both of us is that we both have 4 kids. So
Yeah.
there's 8 between us.
Yep.
They keep us fairly busy.
Mm-hmm.
And we were just discussing it before we hopped on here about how we actually became friends.
Yeah.
And we both decided that it was because we
We
both,
like the kids.
yeah, we liked each other's kids.
Yeah.
Like I adored her daughter, who was the first one I met,
Mhm.
Eve, who was the same age as my youngest son.
A Dugan. Yeah.
And we both were just charmed by the children. And then we were like, well, I hope the mom's okay.
Yeah. And bonus, it worked out.
So, and that was quite some time ago, because those
Yeah.
kids are now 20. So
Yeah. And they're both still really good friends.
yes, they are.
Yeah.
And we both like them still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's since elementary school. That is so cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we just got to know each other better. We decided, now it's been, wow, almost 7 years ago. Is
Mhm.
that possible? 2013. Yeah, it is.
Mhm.
Wow. In about 7 years ago right now, we decided to run in a half, or train for a
Yeah.
half marathon together.
Yeah.
And so
Oh,
we did that. We went down to San Diego in February. It was absolutely
Oh,
spectacular,
it was glorious.
especially for us Oregonians who are
Yeah.
continually getting rained on in February. So, and we trained for that. And that was really, I think that is when we probably started to
It's
spend the
really,
most amount of
yeah,
time
that's
together,
when we
just
really,
because we were going on some pretty long distance runs.
yeah, running like 4 times a week.
Yeah.
And by the end of it, we were running, 10, 12 miles at the weekend.
Yeah.
So,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
it is a good time to get to know one another during running. I found that too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I mean, we had lots of times, a lot of time to talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
During those runs, was the idea born there for Five for Life?
oh no, gosh, no. That was 2013, and the pull for Five for Life didn't start until 2017.
Mm-hmm.
And really, that happened all as a result of me going to a motivational speaker. And that motivational speaker challenged us to kind of go inside ourselves, and if we wanted to do something that would be truly fulfilling, we needed to address both an area of great joy in our lives and an area of great pain. And for me, that was a pretty easy, weirdly, an easy spot, because it kind of was both of my parents. My dad has always been one of my greatest joys. He's going to be 92 in January, and he is still just a delightful example of how to live happier longer. And my mom, on the other side, has always been a source of great pain. And she passed away when she was 80, but mostly not because of really a lot of physical ailments. She just slowly but surely kind of had given up on her life. She just never was able to embrace aging as something that was positive, and she saw her life in just slow and steady decline. And so I got that feeling that this would be the spot, if I could figure out something to address those two areas in my life, that I would be doing something that would really fulfill me. And that's where it all kind of started. And when I started to research and really look at things that my dad has done, and how he has managed to maintain this attitude of optimism throughout his life as he's aged, even when he was taking care of my mom, when he battled, he's had 5 different major heart procedures, he's had prostate cancer. um, I realized that there were some things that he has done throughout his life, that have really set him up to maintain his positive outlook. And then when I dug into the research behind it, I realized that those things that he has done are repeatable, and that everybody can do them. And you really need to do some of these things proactively, so that when you reach the age of 85, 90, you're still, you're happy about it. And I really saw an opportunity to help people as the baby boomers are aging and turning 65 at the rate of 10,000 per day, and we'll keep on doing that right on up until the year 2035. Our country and the world are really ill prepared for this large aging population, and it really becomes necessary for all of us to take the onus on ourselves to build habits that are going to put us in the best position to live longer, because we're probably going to live longer. So if we're going to, wouldn't it be best to be happy about it,
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
I work with quite a few clients that are in their late 80s, late 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And what you're talking about is you see the one group that is active and happy and engaged in their community and in their exercise, that are in such better shape mentally and physically despite setbacks, where the other group is constantly frustrated and just talks about negativity about their body or their mind, or not being able to do things anymore. And so you, it's like almost like your parents is the two camps where you go, can you just get a little bit more positivity from that person over there?
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
it is true. It's an increasingly large population that we're dealing with, coming from a fitness perspective on my end, and it is, there's not a lot of resources there to actually help people stay healthier and happier longer.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, I mean, in just sheer fact, this will be the first time in history that the population, once we reach 2035, it'll be, excuse me, the first time in history that the population that is over the age of 65 will outnumber the population that is 18 and younger.
Yeah.
And that has never happened in history before. So we really don't have a lot of people ahead of us to gain experience from and to understand. So we do have to find those outliers, those, the people that are in that positivity camp, and kind of look at what they've done. And that's how I started. It was taking the experience from seeing my own father and what he has done, and looking at his life and what has been important to him, and then kind of distilling that backwards, and then finding the research that actually supported what he has done as being scientifically proven to increase longevity and improve overall happiness.
Yes. So Angela, how did
Mhm.
you feel about this when you heard the story, and you guys running along and talking about stuff, and you're like, yeah, this is what I want to do? What was your feeling?
I don't think it went like that.
Yeah, well, it actually how Molly described her dad, my parents are exactly the same. They and I think when Molly looked at it, it wasn't initially a scientifically, she didn't look at it and go, "Oh, I know there's a study that tells you this,
Right.
this, and this." The whole thing about it was, she just looked at what her dad was doing, and obviously whatever he was doing was working. And it was the same with my parents. They're both, my dad just turned 79 and my mum is 74. So again, they have a very active, uh, engaged life, and they are never home. So how she was describing her dad mirrored how my two parents were living. So it kind of made sense to me that, that's what I wanted to do when I was that age. So the fact that then we could, you know, work backwards and figure out what it was they were all doing, it was so nice to then see all of these studies and all of this evidence that in fact it wasn't by sheer accident that this all happened. It was they were doing things that absolutely helped them in that aging process. And the fact that they have this positive outlook in life and they are engaged, physically and mentally in some way, that it really makes their life so much more fulfilled.
Mhm.
And that just made sense. So whenever we got together and we discussed all these things, it was like, oh yeah, that's what my parents are doing, that's what your dad's doing. So it was kind of a, okay, this will work. So
Yeah.
And she thought I
So
wanted her to design something for me, a cover, which
yeah,
was not the case. I wanted her to help me in in all aspects, and then do a
yeah,
podcast, which
yeah.
she was.
yeah. So when our audience is in midlife, and we're starting, let's say, at around 40, which is where I think midlife starts, and then to me, midlife goes beyond 50s or 60s,
Yeah.
way down the road as we're staying fit and healthier longer. But what are some of the fears that pop up when you get older?
Well, our first three daily habits really address the top three fears that people have about aging. And the first one is loss of mobility. And I know you
Mm-hmm.
understand this, Heike,
Yeah.
all too well. but it really, I mean, people fear not being able to get around. And it's actually one of the things that's the very most preventable by continuing to move.
Mhm.
Um, the second one is cognitive decline and dementia. And I think we all have heard people joke about, losing their mind or senior moments and, losing your memories. And it's, again, something that has been documented by science to be preventable by taking action.
Yeah.
And so that's I would say another fear. And then the third one would be loneliness and isolation.
Mhm.
And there's been a lot of research, especially lately, on how destructive loneliness and isolation is, and it increases morbidity for seniors. And it is something, again, that we say is actionable, and you can create a habit of staying engaged and connected to your family, friends, and community.
Yeah, yeah. I find that the older clients that I see, despite they have family lives usually far away, and if they don't have a partner, they're by themselves, and they come to not only to train with me in person, but to also get the physical contact and
Yeah.
Yeah.
the funny stories that I tell and little things that I share with them, or they get to share what they have done all day because they haven't talked to anybody all day long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really dangerous. And so it's, I mean, but the fact that they're even taking the action and coming and working with you, that just speaks, that's the
Yeah.
habits that you need to keep doing. And I think it's really important to note, you mentioned about how, we're talking about midlife and starting these things. One of the things that was really important to us with our 5 daily habits was that they were sustainable, so that you could do them in your 80s and 90s without,
Yeah. To some
to
extent,
some extent,
everything
right?
can be done throughout your
Exactly.
age.
And that no matter when you're starting, whether it was to be in your 60s, 70s, 80s, or even, late 80s, 90s, even. I mean, all of the things that we're talking about are, you will see improvement,
Yep.
right
In your
away
in
in
your
your
daily life.
mental life,
Yeah.
in your daily life. You don't have to wait for, I mean, of course, it's always better, right? If you have more time in front of you, the sooner you start building habits and the sooner you start incorporating them into your life, the better you're going to feel now, and the more positive outcome it's going to have on the back end.
Yeah.
But you should never just assume that you're too old, that it's too late, that you can't improve no matter how old you are.
Yeah. Yeah. So your 5 daily habits, what are they? What are what are their goals? And give an example of each one of them.
Yeah. So I think we start with number one is move.
Yes.
And it the thing about move is it doesn't have to be running a marathon. That's the whole point, is, as we said, that everything is doable. So this can be just simply going for a walk. It's some way of incorporating activity of some sort into your routine every day. And it can be, if you're in a building, you go up the stairs instead of taking the elevator, or if you're baking a cake, you physically whisk it instead of putting it in a mixture. So it's all of these different ways that you can incorporate some sort of movement into your daily activities. And it doesn't have to be anything,
Right.
crazy.
It doesn't have to be crazy, but the flip side of that is that you can build on your, you start small, build incrementally, and take small steps, a little more tomorrow than you did today. And, you should never stop yourself, because
Mm-hmm.
we've spoken to some really amazing people who have started later in life and who have become, open water marathon swimming champions. We've
Yeah.
Yeah.
talked to, Ironman champions, that in their 70s, 80s. It's,
Mm-hmm.
you can do things even when you are older, but you don't have to. But move,
Yeah.
we say it's daily habit number one for a reason, because it impacts really everything.
Everything.
It
Yeah.
impacts your mobility, your attitude, your cardio, your heart health,
Mm-hmm.
it's just, it's kind of the number one habit, and I know you agree.
I was just thinking of an example. I have a husband and wife he's 94 and she is 91. And
Mm-hmm.
they both come to me for Pilates. I mean, this is not somebody I can work with online because of health issues, but I started working with them playing ball. So I have a small, soft weighted ball, and I said, all right, let's play ball. And so they play catch with each other.
Yeah.
You wouldn't believe how well they did after a few struggles and like the ball falls down or they couldn't quite catch it. And then I found out they used to play table tennis when they were.
Okay.
And so they told me all about their table tennis when they were in their 30s. So they're now in their 90s. But you know what? The hand-eye coordination came back like cake. It was incredible to see. So this is a good story for your any listener, is how the cognitive and the functional movement returned after not having played for such a long time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Incredible.
Yeah.
So
So daily habit number 2
yes.
is learn. And like we said, it kind of combats that fear of cognitive decline. And there have just been countless studies on how you can literally
Offset all of those.
the actual symptoms, physical symptoms, that the things even up into including the physical manifestations of Alzheimer's in your brain by continuing to use your brain. And when we say use it, it means you actually have to challenge it. You have to teach it new things. You have to learn new things. And by doing that, you can truly help prevent and help offset some of these major fears of cognitive decline.
And some of those things include very creative things. So you could learn how to play piano or take up a new activity like painting or anything that is just different and new that makes your brain work in a different way is hugely beneficial.
And reading, of course, is a fantastic habit to continue to have. We crossword puzzles, learning a new language. I mean, it really, there is no end.
Yeah,
and
there's
of course,
so many options out there.
And of course, I feel like today, with the way the information is available to us via the internet, in our public libraries, in all across, on television, on streaming, there's so much good educational information. Like, people just don't have an excuse not to be learning something really every day, at least in my opinion.
Number 3.
Is sharing. That's all about sharing yourself in some way with your family, your community. So again, it's just the engagement and the relationship you have with people.
Yeah, which again is something that we say is actionable. People, it is an outcome of life as you stop working full time, you stop having your kids in school. There are natural ways that you cross paths with people, like Angela and I meeting at as parents at school.
Yeah.
But as you get older, those opportunities may decline if you don't actively seek them out. And that's what we, whether it is going to volunteer at a neighborhood school, volunteer in other places, take yourself. I mean, if it's a challenge for you to make small talk, practice and have those conversations with your neighbors, go out for a walk, go, with the barista at the coffee store. It's even those small little habits that keep you sharing, and it's essential for helping to prevent loneliness and isolation.
Yeah, and the more you do those kind of things, the less difficult it becomes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So daily habit number 4 is give, and really it's all about gratitude and thankfulness. And while there has been, I think the gratitude piece is something that is pretty prevalent in society today, as far as people being aware or talking about it, hashtag blessed, hashtag grateful. We really want to focus on the actual practice of gratitude and taking the action, because having an attitude of gratitude is one thing, but actually expressing it, writing it down, saying it to people, and making that manifest itself in a daily basis in your life is 100% proven by science, again, to help you live longer and to help you have a better, happier overall, improved quality of life while you're doing it.
Yeah. And then the fifth one is let go. And that's all about letting go, trying to let go of the stresses you have in your life, any regrets that you may have, because again, these are things that are absolutely do not serve you. So if you can let all of these things go, it just gives you a much happier.
Right. And there's a lot of physical complications of stress. Whether it's high blood pressure, chronic stress can lead to high blood pressure, increased risk of cardio or heart attack, coronary. And this is not, we're not talking about just acute little daily things, but when you have a continual buildup of stress, those things, and those are, some of the biggest deadly killers are among the problems that are created by constant stress in your life. So,
yeah. These are awesome. So all these 5 daily habits became part of the ultimate habit building system that you guys created.
Yeah, that's something that has really been just in the last 6 months. We first created our 5 for Life planner, which is a 13-week planner that basically is undated and you can use to track your daily life, your appointments and everything else. But it also has space to track and build those 5 daily habits. So that's where we started first, and we've had that planner and we still have the planner. And then we realized along the way that the whole idea of building habits and understanding how the brain works to build habits was something that people didn't really understand, and that it was something that we could really help people if we created a system, just whether it be our 5 daily habits or any habit that you're trying to build, any habit that you're trying to a negative habit that you're trying to overcome, using a system that like we've created just gives you a foundation and a format, and it's repeatable. So once you have it and once you understand it, once you learn it, then you can
apply it to whatever you want in your life.
Yeah.
And the ultimate habit building system has 2 pillars that you use as its platform.
Yeah. So the first one is brain training. And that's really all about managing your mind and managing your thoughts. And it comes from self-coaching. And if people are familiar with the model that is described in self-coaching from like Brooke Castillo or others, it really is from that. And it is all about understanding that circumstances in your life are neutral. The thoughts you have about them are where everything is dependent upon those thoughts, because your thoughts create your feelings drive your actions, and your actions get your results. And so instead of focusing on the action part of the equation, in terms of especially when people are trying to build a new habit or break a new habit, they often focus right on the action part. Just do it, kind of, grit your teeth, clench your fists and just make yourself go. We try to focus on the thoughts that help you create the feelings that you want to take the action. So that's where the brain training comes in. And then the second part is the plan. And that's literally setting yourself up for success. It's incrementally building upon itself every week. And so you start small and you literally plan out for the week what you're going to do. We call it a minimum acceptable commitment, minimum achievable commitment. So that's, when you make a minimum achievable commitment to yourself, you say, okay, let's say it was going to be, I used this example in our podcast for the last couple of months, but I was reincorporating daily exercise into my life before I go to work, because I've realized that if I try to do it later in the day, it just often doesn't happen. But to do that, I have to get up really early. And, there's a lot I joke about it because it does. Every single day I get up and my brain like has this immediate thought of, oh no, that seems like a really bad idea. Why don't you just stay in bed? And it's this lower primitive brain that just wants to keep me comfortable. But I've used my executive function brain to have a plan in place that's a minimum achievable commitment. So I literally say, okay, I promise that I'm going to get on the treadmill for 15 minutes, period. No ifs, ands, or buts. And so the minimum achievable commitment is something that you say, okay, I am 80% sure that I will do this every single day. And then you track that. And then the next week you increase that by, we say just increase it by 1%. That's kind of like a lot of the habit gurus talk about, incrementally increasing just even a little 1% every day. The compound effect over life is amazing. But so you build on that. So that the plan, so the pillar number one is the brain training, is getting you into the creating the thoughts, understanding that your executive brain and your primitive brain exist, and understanding which one's talking to you at what point in time, and how you can create the thoughts that you need to take the actions you want. And then pillar number two is the plan, and we help you lay out that plan for 30 days and to help you build a new habit, and then just keep on going. You can just repeat it. It's just repeatable. It's incremental, and you build it every week. You check in with yourself every week. You commit to your minimum achievable commitment each week, and then you build from there.
So how do you hold yourself accountable in this program?
So you track this, right? So we have a little, it's in the workbook. You first of all, you're going to be doing thought work every day. You're going to be checking in with yourself and working on creating new thoughts. You're going to have your why behind why it's important for you to do this new habit.
Yeah.
And then on every week, the weekly check-ins, the weekly plan, you're going to be looking at your minimum achievable commitment. Did you do it? Did you not? And again, because a part of the brain training, it's not to look at what if you didn't do it. It isn't the, oh no, this isn't working, things are falling apart, and not, which just those kind of thoughts just lead you to be unmotivated and not take action. It's being able to be an objective observer and look at the day and go, okay, now what was I thinking right then when I decided not to do what I promised myself beforehand I would do? And really trying to be curious and compassionate with yourself when you don't follow through, and learning from it, not just deciding that this just means that it's not working. It means that I just didn't, what happened, and then resetting and starting again, going.
Yep. Because many people feel that if they don't do the homework, as I like to call it, that's a setback. It's not going to happen. It's not working. I can't do it.
Right.
I love that aspect of the brain training that, as you just described it.
Yeah, well, because you just said it, right? When you start to think the thoughts, it's not working, I can't do it. Those thoughts don't serve anybody. All it does when you start thinking those thoughts to yourself is create a feeling of defeat, creating a feeling of being unmotivated. And so
you
cannot
talk
change
yourself out of it.
You cannot change habits by beating yourself into submission. You cannot punish yourself into positive change. It just doesn't work.
Yeah. What would be one step our listeners could take that would help them start building habits to living a longer and happier life?
Well, the first thing I would say is that, really figure out the why power, why you want to do something, what's your motivation. It can't just be because you want to lose 5 pounds, or, this, you really want to try to get to the bottom, to the really big whys in your life of being there for my family, and then reminding yourself of those things and taking action, no matter how small, is, and then tracking it, writing it down, and really reinforcing it, because that the whole writing it down thing is,
you're physically seeing it in front of your eyes, and that's a lot of the things that we've been looking at. It's figuring out what you want to change only happens if you know that, if you can see it and realize that it's something you do have to change.
right.
So a lot of the time it's just seeing it right there in front of you. So if you're writing it down and you can start to see patterns, something then you can continue to do is follow these things that you're doing every day that is benefiting you.
Right.
And then if you see things that you go, I just don't want to keep doing that, or it's something that you didn't realize you were doing, because you're writing these things down, you realize you're doing it, you realize you're thinking this way, and then you can change it if you feel that it doesn't serve you.
Yeah. I just saw a quote yesterday and I loved it, and I'm going to use it somewhere, is what you're not changing, you're choosing. And I think that that is super important. What you're not changing, you're choosing. I think we think that a lot of stuff, is just like autopilot, and we have to remember that we're choosing these things in our lives. And if it's a habit that serves you, that's fantastic. But if it's a habit that doesn't serve you, then decide that you want to change it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. So what's next for 5 for Life?
Well, we're right on the verge of January here. We're recording this. I don't know when you're going to post this, Heike, but we are definitely getting set ready for our January Habit Challenge. January is a month of, resolutions.
Yeah, most people have a turn of the year, they make an effort to do something different.
Yeah. So we figured that it would be a good time to, again, kind of jump in with a challenge group where people can join us, get the 30-day ultimate habit building system, and then we're going to provide some group coaching, some private Facebook group, and really help people kick off the new year by building a new habit, because resolutions, we say, are just things that people break, and habits are things that you can continue to build and improve upon for the rest of your life.
It's so true. So how can people get their hands on the ultimate habit building system and the 5 for Life planner?
Yeah, so you can go to shop.5forlife.co. That's shop.5forlife.co. Look for the ultimate 30-day habit building system, and as a part of that, it's $29.95. Great deal, and you get a free 5 for Life planner as a part of it.
Oh, so awesome!
Yeah. We think it's a great deal. I think that we would love to have people join us and start off. Anytime you're listening to this, we think that this is something that you can really apply to any part of your life, whether it's our 5 daily habits that we know are proven to help you live happier longer, or if it's your career or your relationships or your diet or whatever. There's
just
areas
works
that
anywhere.
Exactly, because the brain training and the plan are fundamental steps to building new habits.
And how can people reach you on social?
Yeah, so we are at The Habit Mindset on all of our social media. So whether that would be Instagram or Facebook or Twitter or Pinterest, you can find us at The Habit Mindset.
And then we also have a podcast.
Oh, yeah. There's that.
Yeah, which is Live Happier Longer. And it's found in all the usual
on any major podcast player. Yep.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much for being here, Molly and Angela. That was such an amazing interview with such valuable information for our listeners. And we're here just before Christmas in the United States, and the podcast will air in January. So we'll give you the heads up as soon as we're getting close to the publishing date, but you can still join the challenge group by reaching out to the ladies. And I wish you happy holidays, and thank you so much for being here and sharing all your wisdom.
Oh, Heike,
thank
you
so much
for
Heike.
Having us. And you have a very Merry Christmas and happy holidays as well.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks so much, Heike. Bye.
Thank you. Bye. So what do you think? Which habit will you start to change or adopt or kick to the curb? And what strategy will you apply from today's episode? Very curious. Let us know over on Instagram at Heike Yates or Pursue Your Spark podcast, or reach out to Molly Watts and Angela McDade at the Live Happier Longer podcast. Since we recorded this podcast, Angela has moved on from the podcast, but Molly is going strong, changing habits and changing mindsets to live a happier and longer life. And our next podcast will be all about morning rituals and how you can create your own morning ritual. So with that, my friends, I'll see you next time on the Pursue Your Spark podcast. Ciao!